Hello class, I'm Jeremy Belmont and I am going to be giving you a review of The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Before I go into details about the book, just kind of give you a little background on Dietrich. He was born February 4th, 1906 in Germany, and he died April 9th, 1945 by execution in a Nazi prison. Bonhoeffer was a German theologian during World War II when many pastors and Christians were choosing to side with Hitler. Bonhoeffer was among the first to publicly oppose him. When it became clear that Hitler intended to use the German church in his own purposes, Bonhoeffer went to London and became the English pastorate member. He refused to recognize the public church, which became the instrument of Hitler's policies, and he supported the establishment of the confessing church. He was born into a large family. He had 7 siblings. One of them was his twin sister. His father was a psychiatrist and a neurologist, and his mother was a teacher. His family dynamics and parents' values enabled him to receive a high level of education. At the age of 24, he went to New York to study at the Union Theological Seminary. But he came home after a while to help due to the rise of Hitler. I guess you could say it was his call to come back. You know, he talks about costly grace and cheap grace, but I think it was his grace that led him back home to help his country. In 1937, his book, The Cost of Discipleship, was published. The book consists of 4 parts. The first part is about Jesus' call to his disciples and the implication of that call. The second part deals with the Sermon on the Mount, which the book is based off a pretty good chapter of that. The third part deals with the sending of Jesus' disciples to preach the gospel. The fourth part deals with the discipleship within the church. Early on in the book, he talks about cheap grace and costly grace, with cheap grace being the preaching of forgiveness without repentance, without requiring repentance, or baptism without church discipline. He then describes costly grace as confronting us a gracious call to follow Jesus, the sanctuary of God. When talking about the Sermon on the Mount, he tells us that disciples should not dream of progress or power of the future. Rather, we should meditate on the end of the coming kingdom. There's a lot of things in this book that I found fascinating. I know his central themes for his theology are based, 1, the responsibility of social action to implement the ideas of the gospel in the midst of life. He also gave greater importance to the central nature of Jesus Christ and the responsibilities of Christians to imitate his life and teachings. In the book, he talks a lot about, giving up your worldly possessions and just following Christ, which could be a hard thing to do. One of the issues with this book being written in his time is someone confessing, their love for God, could be dangerous. I mean, in a time like that, especially with Hitler, he was trying to make the Bibles get rid of basically the Jews. He wanted all the word Jew out of the Bible. After reading the book, I found myself asking, do I have costly grace or do I have cheap grace? And that's something that I'm going to have to look into and hope that I could find out within hopefully the coming days, or if I have to reread the book again, I will. I mean, it was a good read. I liked the book. His ideas at times seemed a little radical, but I think after reading it, you could understand why, especially in the time that he was living in, with the rise of power that he was trying to help get people out of. I hope y'all enjoyed my review. Just leave any questions you have, and I'll see if I can answer them for you. Thanks.